Welcome back. And as we said at the top of the program, there at any time are 8 million people in the world with breast cancer. The interesting thing is that each one of those numbers represents a person. And from that person's diagnosis, a large web develops of family who support them, and the doctors who support them, and the friends who support them. And so that really helps people get through the process of dealing with their cancer. And one of those people who recently dealt with cancer is Becky Comfort of Millville. Welcome, Becky.
Hi there.
So do you remember growing up hearing about breast cancer?
I do actually. From a young age, I was exposed to it. Both my grandmothers had breast cancer, and actually one of my grandmothers actually passed away from breast cancer. And then two of my aunts had breast cancer as well.
Wow, so there was a real family history there then.
There was, yes.
So did you know at what point in time did you realize that it could be a potential or a possibility for you as well?
I think I always realized that there was a potential that I could have cancer. Beyond breast cancer, there were all kinds of cancers in my family. And so I always kind of thought that that possibility existed, but you don't realize that it's going to happen to you until it actually happens to you. And so that was probably, my mom was the closest person that had cancer, and she passed away when I was about 21. And only shortly after that did it really hit me that it could happen to me.
So did she pass away? Did she have breast cancer as well?
She did not. She had a type of cancer that was blood and bone marrow.
Okay. All right, so how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 28 years old.
Wow.
Still very young and quite honestly in the prime of my life. I was just getting ready to start a family, and I own a nonprofit business as well. So that was at its highest peak. And it was a total surprise for me.
So I'm sure that you remember every single detail and every single feeling from that exact moment when they said those words, don't you?
Absolutely. I did not at all expect to have cancer. I thought for sure it would be another appointment. I had previously had something checked out and it came back being negative, so I just assumed this would be another one of those appointments. I remember being in the different doctor's offices for mammograms and ultrasounds and all those different things, and all the professionals were like, "You're so young, it's probably nothing. I mean, we can't outlaw it, but it's probably nothing. Don't worry so much." And so as you can imagine, it was quite a surprise for me.
So what kind of breast cancer did you have?
I had a type of breast cancer that was a very aggressive type. It was called triple negative, and it has the genetic factor of having a BRCA1 or BRCA2 genetic component to it.
So how did you move forward after that diagnosis? How do you recover from that moment when you hear those words and muster the strength and develop an attitude to move forward from that point in time?
To be perfectly honest, I think the biggest thing that helped me get through all of it was my faith and my husband at the time. We had the pastor and all of our friends and family. They came over and we prayed together when we first got the news. And from the very beginning, my husband and his family were just huge advocates of me. They made sure that I had the best doctors. They made sure that we had all the resources that we needed to get through it, which so many people are not so fortunate to have. And all along, my husband was my best friend, and all those circumstances that could have been really bad and in a lot of ways are really bad, he was able to bring some kind of positivity to it. That was one thing he was really good at.
So I have to ask, with your grandmothers having cancer and with your mom having cancer, were you able to watch them, see how they dealt with it, and then learn from it, and then apply that to your dealings with cancer?
Absolutely. My grandmothers were, I was very young when my grandparents were diagnosed, so I didn't have too much experience there, but my mom absolutely. I was 21 at the time. I had two little brothers that were 4 and 6. My dad was disabled, and so it was a very, very difficult situation for me because I was seeing this beautiful, strong, very independent woman who was extremely active in the community. She was my Girl Scout leader. She was my 4-H advisor. She was my soccer coach. She was all those things. For her to be diagnosed with cancer was a complete shock first, but then to see her going through the treatments, and I've never seen someone so strong as she was. She fought to the very end, and she did everything that she could. And all along, I know she was scared because now I've gone through it myself, but at the time I would have thought that she wasn't afraid of anything. And so she kind of gave me the strength that I didn't have within myself, if not for knowing how my mom had powered through it, and knowing that I could do the same thing.
Okay, so you already talked about your husband as being a main supporter for yours, but did it, as I said, did a web of support group, family, friends develop for you after that diagnosis?
Absolutely. My church was a huge advocate for me. Also, when I was diagnosed, I was working as a preschool teacher. So as you can imagine, I couldn't work anymore because I was working in a classroom with 10 2-year-olds, which are little germ factories. As much as I loved them, I couldn't be around them. And I'm so grateful for that family at Trinity because they knew that it was such a big part of me, and such a big part of me getting well was seeing them and having those children in my life. And so the director there would actually put everybody on lockdown, and she would have all the doors closed. She would have everybody Clorox wipe all the handles, and I would come and I would wave to the kids from the windows, and I would read stories to the kids from outside. And they even planted a little oak tree for me. They call it the Becky tree, that they planted on site for me while I was going through my cancer. And all of those things definitely helped build up my strength and my positive energy, because that is such a huge aspect of getting well, is knowing that you can do it.
So what kind of treatment plan did you go through for this form of breast cancer?
So I got my diagnosis in late December of 2016, and in February is when I started my first treatments. Before that, I did get a Metaport put in, which helped so that when I was doing my chemo treatments, I didn't have to get needle pricks every time. It was just much easier to do that than a PICC line. So I had that in, and that was a pretty scary surgery for me because I had really never had surgeries before. And so that was the start of it. And then I started doing chemo treatments in February. I did chemo treatments once a week all the way up through June. And I sat in a chair anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, pretty much a whole day of treatments. And you get all kinds of blood testing done, and you sit in a waiting room for a really long time while the test results are coming back. And it's a whole day thing, whether it's 4 hours or 8 hours of chemo, it's still a full day. And it's absolutely exhausting. After a typical treatment, you usually go home, you're tired, and then for the next 2 or 3 days, you don't feel well, at least 2 or 3 days. And then maybe like 5 or 6 days later, you start to feel a little bit better, but then it's the next week and you're ready for the next treatment. So I did that up until June. And June is when they determined that the treatments could be stopped. And at that point, my immune system was fairly low because the chemo kills pretty much all the cells in your body. And I needed to be able to reboot my immunity. And so I took a break from July through August and was able to kind of just rest and regain being healthy again for a little while. And then in August, I was able to go in for my major surgeries. I went in for a double mastectomy, and the reason for that was the type of cancer that I have and my family history determined that I was very, very likely to get cancer again. And so they wanted to remove everything. So they did a double mastectomy. And then at the same time, I had a couple different options. I could either do reconstructive surgery later and do a second surgery for that, or I could do it at the same time. And I opted to do it at the same time. I'm very much a go-getter. I'm a kayaker, a whitewater rafting guide. I climb mountains. I teach science and nature programs to kids. So my thought was, the sooner I can get this all done with, the better. So I had a reconstructive surgery at the same time that I had the cancer removed and the double mastectomies. And that process of the reconstructive surgery took from August all the way up through December, because what they do when they do the reconstructive surgery, at least in my situation, is they basically put in these expanders inside where the breasts would be to expand the skin so that they could eventually put an implant in. And so every week they had an appointment with me, and we would work at that until December. And then at December 29th of 2017 is when they could officially say that I was cancer free.
Wow. So you are in fact in remission right now.
Yes, absolutely. Celebrating every day.
Now, is there a point in time when you are no longer in remission, when they consider you cured, or are you always in remission then?
You know, that's a great question. I would say that's probably more of a doctor question than a question for me. And mostly I think that's because as much as I live every moment, I embrace every moment, I'm very much carpe diem. I have the reality that it's in my family. And if it's not breast cancer, it's very likely that I might get another cancer. In fact, they did, according to genetic testing, it is very likely that I will get some other kind of cancer. So for now, this is mountain number one, and hopefully there won't be any other big mountains, at least not mountains that I don't want to climb in my future.
And I don't want to dredge up bad memories, but how rough was the treatment for you?
It was very rough. I mean, I was a farm girl. I mean, I did all kinds of hard work, manual labor. I've done all kinds of agility things in my life, and I've never gone through anything so rough. A big part of it is you completely lose your identity. I was always a tomboy. I loved hanging out with the boys. I thought no big deal if I lose my hair. It's not a big deal. But when I started to lose my hair, it was very unexpected because it was much sooner than I was anticipating. And when I lost my hair, I lost my eyebrows, I lost my eyelashes, I lost everything. And in addition to losing all of my hair, I also gained almost 90 pounds. So going from a healthy individual that was very athletic, very active, I struggled to get out of bed. In fact, the first month of my treatments, I couldn't get out of bed. And it was just a real struggle for me until I found some things that really helped me to move forward. And it was truly difficult emotionally, physically, in every way. And if not for the people that were in my life at that time, I don't know how I would have gotten through it.
So what were some of the lessons you learned through this whole process?
So many. I've learned that I have a strength inside of me that I didn't know existed. I learned I'm a lot stronger than I ever could have imagined. I also learned that there's a lot of really beautiful things out in the world to experience, and I'm so grateful that I'm here today to experience them. 4 years ago, I didn't know if I would be here. And so now I embrace every moment. I take advantage of every possible opportunity that I have. And I live life to the fullest. And I know that I have a greater purpose or I wouldn't still be here. So that's very encouraging, and it helps motivate me and helps me be dedicated to doing good things for the people around me.
And what advice would you give to someone who is just starting on that journey?
Stay strong and positive. Surround yourself with great people. If you don't have great people in your life, reach out to me. Reach out to others. As of 2018, I traveled the whole country. I did 50 states in 52 weeks sharing my story. And when I did that, I made a lot of friends, and I met a lot of people that were going through their family that were going through those struggles. And so as I shared my story with them, I continued to correspond with them and try to build them up in ways that will help them get through their struggles, whether it's messages. That's what helped me, by my friends doing that for me. So whatever I can do to help those people, I'm going to keep doing that.
Could that be almost your contribution to Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
Absolutely. Yep, that's a huge part of it. And another big thing that I'm doing is I have two friends that I work with currently, and both of them have cancer diagnoses. And so this upcoming Saturday, we're actually doing a spirit run over at Hess's Field in Danville. Small fee to do the run or the walk, however they want to do it, and all of that money is going to get split between the two of them. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot of events like this to help those people and others, and whatever I can do to help different people. I do believe that is a big part of my calling.
So what's your outlook now?
I'm very positive. I have had a long couple years, specifically this last year between COVID and all the other things going on in my life. As crazy as it was, if things happened in a different direction or a different order, I don't know how I would have gotten through cancer, but being that I was able to survive cancer, it's helped me get through a lot of other really big struggles in my life. And now all the things that I've wanted to do, silly things like my mom always had this beautiful set of china that she never brought out except for special occasions. And my mom didn't get to use them very much. And then I received them, and, you know, I could keep them away or I could enjoy them and use them that I do now, instead of keeping things and waiting to use them for special occasions, or, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do these things. Well, my mom never had a chance to do those things, which is why I did the tour, was so that I could see all the places that she wanted to go. And so I embraced that by doing the things that mean the most in my life. And it's been a real journey. It's definitely been difficult, but I know that after surviving cancer, and like I said, the last year or so of crazy things going on in my life, can make a bigger difference now after what I've gone through.
Amazing story. Becky Comfort, thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck
Thank
for
you
you
so
in the
much for
future.
having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And that's going to do it for this special edition of In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke. Thanks for joining us.